So when we say processing of personal information, this refers to any operation or any set of operations performed upon personal information. So this includes their collection, recording, modification, organization, storage, updating, consultation, use, erasure, or destruction of data. So kumbaga, ito yung ginagawa natin sa impormasyon, sa personal data na hawak natin. So kumbaga, isipin natin ang personal data or personal information para yung gulay. So ano bang, at ang pagluluto or ang paghihiwa, paglalaga, pagpaprito, yun yung mga operations. So that's what we do with the gulay. So ano ba ang sinasabi sa atin? Ano ba ang sinasabi sa atin ng Data Privacy Act when it comes to the processing of personal information? May nire-require ang Section 11 sa atin. We have to observe the 3 data privacy principles yung na-discuss earlier, which is transparency, proportionality, and legitimate purpose, plus yung requirements under the Data Privacy Act, which is compliance with Section 12 kung sakaling it's personal information, or Section 11 or Section 13 in case it is sensitive personal information or privileged sensitive personal information or privileged information. So kumbaga, pag tuwing magpoproseso tayo na personal information, dapat kompleto to palagi. Si Section 11 na si transparency, legitimate purpose, and proportionality, plus either isa sa mga nakalista sa Section 12 or sa Section 13. Hindi pwedeng si Section 11 lang ang na-observe natin, which is yung principles, tapos hindi tayo nag-comply dun sa requirements or dun sa criteria for processing. Kumbaga, para ka nagluto na kulang yung ingredients mo. Pag ganon, hindi successful yung pagluluto mo. Same as kung hindi mo na-observe yung requirements for the processing of personal data, hindi naaayon sa batas ang pagpoproseso mo. So, when we process personal information sa Section 12, may criteria tayo, di ba? Ang sabi sa atin sa Section 12, the processing of personal information shall be permitted only if not otherwise prohibited by law and when at least one of these conditions exist. So ibig sabihin, as a general rule, pwede tayo mag-process ng personal information, provided may kondisyones. Isa sa mga ito, sa mga sumusunod na nakalista, ay present. Una-una is consent. Ito yung pinakasikat siguro na condition para sa atin. Ito yung pinakaalam natin lagi. Consent. Pero consent is not the only prerequisite for the processing of personal information. Hindi sa lahat ng panahon kailangan natin magpaalam doon kay data subject. Pero kailangan natin laging ipaalam or i-inform sila of the processing. Next is ito, i-merge ko na lang kasi they are kind of related or they have similarities, ano? The processing of personal information is necessary for the fulfillment of a contract or for the fulfillment of a legal obligation. So, ang example dito ay kunyari, it is applied when an employer would process the personal information of an employee as a consequence of their employer-employee relationship. Or halimbawa din, si supplier, may mga binili tayong halimbawa office furniture, ano? Hindi na natin kailangan hingin yung pahintulot or permission mula sa kanila that we will get their personal information such as their name or their email address because we need those to process our payment para sa kanila. Kasi may obligasyon tayong bayaran sila. So, kumbaga, pasok ang pagpo-process natin dun sa criteria na yon. So, it's either for the fulfillment of a contract or in the performance of a legal obligation. Ang sumunod naman ay the processing is necessary in order to respond to a national emergency or to comply with the requirements of public order, safety, or to fulfill the actions or to fulfill the functions of public authority, which necessarily includes the processing of personal data. And, okay, yun, sorry. Ang halimbawa dito ay yung pagbibigay ng kasama rin pala dito, pwede natin isama is yung isa pang kondisyon, hindi ko lang po nailagay, the processing is necessary to protect the vitally important interests of the data subject, including their life and health. I will discuss these two later on, pero ang pinaka-example dito is when we fill out contact tracing forms or yung mga CIFs po natin, lalo na ngayon kung tayo ay nagpapatest for COVID, isa ito sa mga criteria for dito naka-rely or naka-base yung pagpo-process ng personal information natin sa mga ganong panahon. Again, I will discuss that further towards the end kasi may slides din ako para doon. Next is for the processing of the personal information is pursuant to a mandate pursuant to the constitutional or statutory mandate of a public authority. Ang halimbawa naman nito is yung kadalasang paghihingi sa atin ng, kunyari ng COA, ng last known address ng isang empleyado para para siya ay mapadala ng final copy ng isang resolution or ng order. In this case, hindi na natin kailangan as tayo, si Diliman, hindi natin kailangan magpaalam na kay employee na, ay, can we disclose your last known address kay COA? Hindi na, because we are fulfilling, we are acting pursuant to pursuant dun sa order ni COA, at yung pagproseso naman ni COA na yon, yung paghingi naman niya ng impormasyon ay alinsunod sa kanyang mandato na mag-imbestiga nga ng mga institutions or mga opisina or mga empleyado to ensure na they are in line with the auditing laws. Next is the processing is necessary for the legitimate purpose of the processing is necessary for the purposes of the legitimate interests pursued by the Personal Information Controller. So tayo yon, si UP as a Personal Information Controller, and when or by a third party to whom the data is disclosed, except when the interests are overridden by the fundamental rights and freedoms of the data subject, which require protection under the Constitution. Ang sabi dito is, if the disclosure is necessary in the fulfillment of a legitimate interest being pursued by UP, so either as a public authority or as a government agency or as an educational institution, hindi na nangangahulugan na sa lahat ng panahon magpapaalam si UP sa ating mga empleyado or sa mga estudyante na i-disclose ang personal information.